I've been talking about doing Gen 5 runs on the channel for a little over a year now, and what better time to do so than in 2025. What's going on, YouTube? And welcome to the first solo run of Pokemon White on the channel. I figured what better Pokemon to start with than Samurott, the Pokemon I chose when I began my journey in the Gen 5 games. Gen 5 was actually the first games I had played since Gen 3. Back when Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire had originally come out, I was just beginning high school, and well, Pokemon wasn't really popular anymore. I had emulated the games on my own free time, but didn't really enjoy hoenn. This is also in part why I haven't brought Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire to the channel just yet. From there, I emulated Fire Red and Leaf Green, as well as Emerald, and by the time Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum had come around, I was finishing up high school, and while I had some friends that bought DSs just for those games, I did not. To wrap up my little flashback and backstory on how I got back into Pokemon and the Gen 5 games, back when I was in college, I worked at a Little Caesars, and I was friends with a few of my coworkers. One of my female coworkers, whom I did date very briefly, had bought the hardcover strategy guide of the game, and I had been looking through it and just looking at all of the brand new designs and the area, and I began mapping out my team of what I wanted to use. She had surprised me 2 days later and bought me a DS. Although it was a pink DS, I didn't really care, and I bought myself a copy of Pokemon White because I really wanted to use Zekrom. In these first few runs, I'm going to be running the starters, but then I'm going to be running Pokemon that I used on my team in my original playthrough. Originally, I thought about using the evolutionary lines, but when I eventually have to do Pokemon like Larvesta and Dino, two Pokemon in the slow level up group that evolve at level 59 and then level 50 and 64, both of which would be evolving pretty late in the playthrough. That just didn't really seem fun to me, although it's something I could explore when I eventually bring Black and White 2 to the channel. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. Anyway, before fully diving into this, I just want to cover a few things. The first being, there are a lot of rival battles in these games, so I'm not going to cover every single one of them. I'll just briefly touch on them, and one of those times is now, where you face your rivals Bianca and Cheren in your bedroom when you first receive your starter. Bianca is supposed to be your weaker rival, as she takes the Pokemon that is weak to your starter, where Cheren takes the Pokemon that is strong against your starter. Anyway, they're both pretty easy in your bedroom. They will get tougher as the playthrough goes along, and I'll touch on those as they come. And the same goes for battles against Team Plasma, who's the main evil team in these games. But we're nearly 3 minutes into this video and I've been rambling quite a bit, so what do you say we just dive into this playthrough already? I'm going to jump past the tutorial stuff and straight to Accumula Town, where we see Team Plasma and Ghetsis for the first time in this playthrough. If it isn't obvious, he's like the main evil villain in these games, but we'll touch on him more later. And then there is N, the leader of Team Plasma. Like with the rivals, you have quite a few battles with him throughout the playthrough, and I'll only be touching base on those that are really relevant. Being that this is the first battle against him, this does have some relevancy to the playthrough. But just like the first battle against your two rivals, he's no problem. His Purloin goes down to 3 water guns from Samurott. And as this battle plays out, why don't we just touch on Samurott's base stats really quick. It's a mixed attacker with a base attack stat of 100 and special attack stat of 108. The 70 speed might give us enough to outspeed everything in this run. However, I chose the incorrect nature. Originally, I wanted a nature that gave me plus speed and minus defense, but I mixed them up and went with a relaxed nature, which gave me plus defense and minus speed. I'm definitely going to correct that in future playthroughs, and hopefully this doesn't affect Samurott's final time too much. I'll be running perfect DVs with all of the Pokemon I run, and as you see, PokeLink is cooperating in this run as we have a moveset and updating stats, although it does cut off the text, which is something I have to fiddle with still. Before entering Striaton City, I'm going to catch a few of my HM users. I catch a Patrat for Cut. I tried searching in the grass for a Pidove, but after a few minutes I just gave up after it wasn't appearing. I have a rival battle with Bianca, she's easy, we're going to skip it, along with a battle against Cheren in the trainer school in Striaton City. By the way, I'm getting these pronunciations straight from the Pokemon anime. It's time to take on our first gym challenge, and there are actually 3 different gym leaders here. Depending who you picked as your starter depends on which one you will face. If the player chooses Snivy as their starter, they'll face Chili. If the player chooses Tepig, they'll face Cress. And if the player chose Oshawott, or Samurott in my case, they'll face Silent. This will also hold true for whatever starter you replace in future runs. They all have a level 12 Lillipup and the elemental monkey that is strong against your starter. Let's see how this goes. As I previously stated, they all lead with a level 12 Lillipup that only knows Work Up and Bite. Unfortunately, it takes me 4 hits to knock it out thanks to Silent using a potion on it. I level up to 13 after knocking it out and have the opportunity to learn Focus Energy, which I delete Water Sport for. The Grass Elemental Monkey Pansage comes out next. It outspeeds Samurott and goes for Work Up, as Tackle is my best option against it. It then starts going for Vine Whip, but Samurott is able to outlast it and knock it out. The real prize from this battle is the TM for Work Up. Although Samurott can't learn it, it's going to be useful in playthroughs later on. Speaking of what Samurott can and can't learn, why don't we take this moment to briefly look at its move pool. It unfortunately is one of those Pokemon that start with 5 moves at level 1 or level 5, so we missed out on Mega Horn. It would have been nice to have a 120 physical power move, especially one that could have probably one-shot Pansage. Other moves that it learns via level up that will probably come in handy later on in this playthrough: Razor Shell at 17, Fury Cutter at 20, Water Pulse at 25, Aqua Jet at 33, Slash at 36, Swords Dance at 57, which it also learns the TM for this. Unfortunately, that's only available in post-game, but we will be completing the post-game and the battle against Alder. Through TM and HM, I wish it had a bit more coverage, but we do get the typical water and ice moves such as Ice Beam, Blizzard, Scald, Surf, Waterfall, Dive. We also have 2 options to deal with grass types in the form of X-Scissor and Aerial Ace. And we also learn the move Dig, which will be useful for when we have to take on Elisa and any other annoying electric types. Although Dig will be completely useless against her Emolgas, although hopefully it can one-shot her Zebstrika when the time comes. Talking about Samurott's moveset almost got us past the Dreamyard stuff, where we have to take care of Team Plasma, and at the end of it, you just get access to the Sea Gear. Well, you get access to the Sea Gear after you get back in town and visit Professor Fennel, which just allows you to access various features like the Entralink, Dreamworld, and other things. Since this is a solo challenge though, we won't be doing that, and because we're emulating, we also won't be doing that. But we will be having another encounter with Team Plasma very soon, on Route 3. Before that, I have a rival battle against Charon. He's really easy and I take no damage, so I'm not going to bother showing the battle. I chase Team Plasma into Wellspring Cave, and before this double battle, you do have a single battle against one grunt. One thing I want to touch on in these games that I'm not the biggest fan of is the constant camera angle changing in battle, and you'll see it quite often with double and triple battles in this game. I make my way through Route 3, catching a P-Dove along the way, and arrive in Nacrene City. Once you arrive, Charon gives you Chesto Berries, which could come in handy later. There's also a house you can visit and talk to this girl, and pending who you started with, she'll give you either the Mystic Water, Miracle Seed, or Charcoal. Today, since we're playing with Samurott, I'm obviously going to take the Mystic Water. Before I can enter the museum, which is also the gym, I have a battle against N. I'm not going to show this one though because it's a pretty easy battle. This gym puzzle requires the player to find memos within books and answer questions in them by finding another book. And honestly, I got a few of these wrong because I'm just mashing A while playing the game at 4 times speed. But eventually I make my way through the gym puzzle, uncover this staircase, and now it's time to take on our second gym leader, Lenora. I know in watching Madrybread's Gen 5 solo run challenges, she can normally be a problem. Let's see how Samurott does. Her lead Herdier has the Intimidate ability, so I'm going to go for Focus Energy. It opens up with Leer. I thought it would go for Workup. My Razor Shell misses as Takedown does 30 HP to me. My next Razor Shell hits, lowering its defense, but Takedown brings me to 10 HP. Things are not looking good. After a Super Potion, a Torrent boosted Mystic Water boosted Razor Shell knocks out Herdier. I level up to 20 and have the opportunity to learn Fury Cutter, which I'll gladly delete Tackle for. But now I have to contend with her ace Watchhog. It outspeeds me and goes for Crunch, giving Samurott its first loss. In the next battle, I don't bother with setting up Focus Energy. Instead, I'm just going to go for Razor Shell, which 2 of them knock out Herdier. It did hit me with a Leer though. I level up to 20 one more time and delete Tackle again for Fury Cutter as I get ready to take on Watchhog for the second time. And Watchhog in this second battle, instead of attacking me, just goes for Leer twice, as 2 Razor Shells take it down. I level up again and victory is mine over the normal type gym leader. Even with the basic badge in hand, unfortunately our business isn't completely done here, as we have to deal with Team Plasma once again. They rob the museum of everything, and we have to chase them into Pinwheel Forest to get everything back. Pinwheel Forest is one of the locations in these games that I backtrack to for a rare candy later. I'll point that out when the time comes. You can also get the TM for Grass Knot here, along with facing Virizion when the time comes. This place is also full of rangers that give you berries after you defeat them, which could come in handy later on in the playthrough. I know I briefly mentioned Virizion, but it's going to be one of the few legendaries I don't battle in these playthroughs. Spoiler warning. Anyway, at the end of the forest, I just battle this one grunt and I get the items that they stole back. Really, it's only one, the Dragon Skull, but we'll just pretend like they stole the whole museum. With that out of the way, we can head to the Sky Arrow Bridge and to Castelia City, which the Sky Arrow Bridge music is probably one of my favorite tracks in the entire game. And I remember when I first got to this area in the game and I thought how cool it was. It reminds me of the Bridge to Canada being a Metro Detroiter. Before I can take on the Bug-type Specialist Berg for my 3rd gym badge, I need to deal with Team Plasma once again. But while I do that and take care of some other errands around town, let's talk about some of the items that you can get in Castelia City, because there is a lot. In the Pokemon Center, you can talk to a man in black, and pending how many trades you've done with different people, depends on how many of these different items you can get. Feel like the Choice Scarf could have some use, and it's unfortunate that we won't get access to it. You can also get the Amulet coin here, which I'll have to note for later playthroughs. I didn't pick it up in this one, unfortunately. One thing I want to point out are the 2, but really 3 available TMs in Castelia City. There's the TM for Rest, which you can get from the Castelia building on the 11th floor. There's the TM for Flash, which is gotten from a guy in a back alley, and after my Aurorus run, I feel like I can make a lot of use of this move in later playthroughs. And finally, there's the TM for Snarl, which you get from giving someone the lock capsule on the 11th floor of the Castelia building. Unfortunately, the lock capsule was never made available, which makes this TM unobtainable. I don't really know how Snarl would come in handy in future playthroughs, but if for some reason I were to ever need it in a future playthrough, let me know in the comments how you feel if I were to use PK Hex to give it to myself. Of course, I would also give myself the restriction of not being able to use the TM until I get to Castelia City. Alright, I've managed to talk long enough to where all the Team Plasma stuff is done and over with. There was only one battle outside of this building. Let's pick it up in Berg's gym. And I actually don't hate the design of this gym, or the gym puzzle, if you want to call it that. Run through the walls of honey, step on the switch, battle the trainer, and a gate unlocks. Seems simple enough. Eventually, I make my way through all of Berg's trainers and to Berg himself. And while he is the Bug-type specialist, his ace is a Bug and Grass type. Hopefully, this doesn't spell trouble for Samurott. Berg leads with Whirlipede, and I forgot to heal before this battle. I've also learned Water Pulse while leveling up in his gym. It's able to 2-shot Whirlipede, but Berg does use a Hyper Potion after the first one. He sends in his ace Leavanny next. Leavanny outspeeds Samurott, and goes for Razor Leaf, bringing me to 16 HP. It misses its second, but Fury Cutter can't stack damage fast enough, and Samurott goes down. And this battle doesn't get any better. I tried again immediately, forgetting to heal once again, and once again, Leavanny's Razor Leaf is too much for Samurott. I had no healing items in my bag, so I had to backtrack to the Pokemon Center to heal, and took a little bit of damage from Whirlipede, but once again, Razor Leaf is just too much for Samurott, as we get a third loss. Alright, it's obvious I'm not going to beat Berg at level 25, and fortunately for me, on Route 4, there are some trainers I can battle for some extra experience. At least I don't have to do this grind on wild Pokemon, because the experience system in this game is brutal. Here's the formula and an explanation straight from Bulbapedia. You can pause the video right here to get a better view of it. I'll also leave a link in the description. After battling all of the trainers on Route 4 that I have access to, I'm level 27, and while I could go battle Berg again, I think leveling up to 28 on wild Pokemon over the next damage rounding threshold is the best decision right now. So I take my time knocking out wild Darumaka and Scraggies and level up to 28, where I can also learn the move Revenge. I decide to learn it in the place of Focus Energy. So, something interesting, at level 28, we actually outspeed Leavanny now, and it goes for String Shot to speed control us. There's a bit of back and forth with Leavanny's moves missing along with my own, but Fury Cutter is not the answer here. I should be going for Razor Shell, which I eventually do in this battle, although when I finally go for it, it does miss, as Leavanny brings me to orange health. However, my second brings it to red health and it gets a defense drop. Although Berg heals it with a Hyper Potion, Razor Shell is hitting extremely hard right now. And once Leavanny brings me into red health, which it does before I finally knock it out, and now the Mystic Water and Torrent are going to give me maximum damage on his final Pokemon Dwebble, which is part rock type and thankfully doesn't have the ability Sturdy. Water Pulse one-shots it. At long last, the first wall of the run is defeated. I'm just glad I didn't have to grind up to something like level 30 or level 33, because having to do that on wild Pokemon would have really sucked. Also, for any future water Pokemon that I may play, I might want to think about grinding some before Berg, like facing some of the trainers in Pinwheel Forest that I skip. On my way leaving town heading back to Route 4, I have a rival battle with Bianca, but she's easy, I'm not going to show this battle. However, there is a battle with Charon on Route 4, and this one gets pretty close. I misclick going for Fury Cutter on the Pidove as it hits me with Air Cutter. I correct my mistake going for Water Pulse and knocking it out. He sends out Servine next. I go for Fury Cutter as it hits me with Leech Seed. This isn't good. It then follows that up the next turn with a Leaf Tornado as Fury Cutter fails to knock it out. While my next Fury Cutter can knock it out and stop the Leech Seed, I'm still taking chip damage from Sandstorm, and this isn't looking good. He sends out Panpour next. Fury Cutter is able to one-shot it, and we level up, and thank God, because now we're able to tank that chip damage from the Sandstorm. Liepard is last. Fury Cutter one-shots it. As I venture through the desert, I'm going to be picking up some optional battles because the next gym leader is Elisa, the electric type specialist. There are some items in the desert I can pick up though that will possibly help me with the gym battle. Just before the desert resort area, there's this house, and I can pick up the TM for Dig from this worker. While it will be ineffective against her two Emolgas, I'm hoping that it will one-shot her Zebstrika. I can then make my way to the desert resort area, and there's a lot of additional trainers here. Although I do face one accidentally, I'm mainly here for two things. One is this rare candy, the second of which is this heart scale in the top left corner. Once we reach Mistralton City, I can trade in this heart scale to relearn a move like Mega Horn, possibly. Once I enter Nimbasa City, I'm level 32, and you have to battle Team Plasma once you enter the city. Luckily, they aren't difficult, and you receive the bicycle once you defeat them from this old man. Samurott is also going to get a huge moveset upgrade once we get to the Pokemon Center, because I can buy the TM for Return here, and with a friendship at 226, that means Return's base power is going to be 90.4, or just least 90 to round down. Before heading to the gym though, I'm going to head to the gear station and take the brown train to Anvil Town. There's a subway attendant that will give you a rare candy in the bottom right house of this city. I figure it's best to pick this up now in case Elisa walls us, or if we need this for later on in the playthrough. The one last thing I need to do before heading to the gym is head to this house above the Pokemon Center and grab the HM for strength. As I head towards the gym, I'm greeted by N, who wants me to ride the Ferris wheel with him. On the ride, he tells me that he's the king of Team Plasma and that Getsus asked him to save all of the Pokemon. Of course, after the Ferris wheel ride, you do have a battle with him, but I'm not going to bother showing this one. There will be an end battle that gets featured, trust me on that one. I can finally enter Elisa's gym, and the indoor roller coasters aren't bad. I kinda like the gym design here. I've also added Dig to my moveset since all of the trainers in her gym either have Blitzels or Emolgas in their party, fitting that the trainers of the gym use almost the exact same Pokemon as the gym leader. Hopefully she does not wall me like Berg did. Her lead Emolga outspeeds and goes for Volt Switch, and sends out the second Emolga. I hit it with Water Pulse, which knocks it out. The first Emolga comes back out and just goes for Pursuit. I don't know why, Water Pulse one-shots it. Last is her Ace Zebstrika. It also outspeeds Samurott, and its Volt Switch brings me to 28 HP. Luckily, Dig does get the one-shot. As I try to leave town, Bianca takes me to the Pokemon Musical Theater, and I have to dress up my Samurott. Kind of a waste, but plotline, I guess. I also have a rival battle against Charon on Route 5, but the only thing to note on this one is that the Panpour actually burns me. Just like every battle against him so far, with the exception of that Route 4 battle, he's not a challenge. And now we have arrived in Driftveil City, the home of the 5th gym badge. Of course, before we can battle Clay or even enter his gym, we have to take care of, you guessed it, Team Plasma once again. They're just hiding out in the cold storage south of town though, and one TM I can pick up as soon as I walk in here is the TM for Scald. Once you make your way to the final storage bin in the back, if you want to call it that, they're all just hiding out here. You battle 4 of the grunts and then Clay comes to take them all away. I do want to pick up the item that is left behind by them, which is the Never Melt Ice. I think this could come in handy later on. Alright, Clay's ground gym. As someone who streamed Black and White 2 earlier in the year, and seeing the changes between the two games, I think I might like his gym design better in Black 2 and White 2. I definitely like Elisa's indoor roller coaster theme park a lot better than her long runway. Overall, this gym puzzle isn't tough to figure out, and now it's time to take on our 5th gym leader, Clay, who Samurott has a type advantage against. Let's see who's the most rootinest, tootinest Pokemon trainer on this side of the West, cowboy. Krokorot, one shot with Water Pulse. He sends out Excadrill next, one shot with Water Pulse. I level up and decline to learn Encore. Last is Palpitoad, one shot. The easiest gym battle of the run. I have another rival battle with Bianca as I try to leave town. She's easy, and she gives me the HM for Fly once you defeat her. Next up is Chargestone Cave, and there is a battle with N at the end of the cave. I'm not going to bother showing it. This is the only time I'll mention it. I do, however, want to bring your attention to the second basement of Chargestone Cave. There are 2 items down here that are worth picking up, the first of which is the Bright Powder, a held item that will reduce my opponent's attacking moves accuracy by 10%, and the second of which is a rare candy. Once I arrive in Mistralton City, I can't battle the gym leader Skyla right away. Instead, I need to head to Route 7 and the Celestial Tower. This is the city that contains the move reminder though, and instead of teaching Mega Horn, I skip on it for now. The reason being is because on Route 7 there's the TM for X Scissor, and if I need any type of coverage where I need a bug move, since TMs are reusable, I figured this was the best way to go. I'm going to skip the Celestial Tower. There's nothing of importance that happens there. You just climb to the top of the tower, meet Skyla, ring the bell, and then fly back into the city and you can finally enter her gym. This is another gym where I think I like the design better in Black 2 and White 2. You can also watch me scramble here as I think that I screwed up the gym puzzle, which I'm pretty sure I did later on. But that doesn't matter, I still make my way to Skyla. Let's see if Samurott can continue its dominance. Swoobat is the lead. It sets up Amnesia but gets one-shot by Razor Shell. She sends out Unpheasant next, which is one-shot by Scald. Last is her ace Swanna, and Slash gets the one-shot thanks to a critical hit. Since I now have the Jet Badge, I can talk to this guy who tells me there's something cool at the end of the runway, and if I head back to the runway, I can pick up the TM for Aerial Ace. Twist Mountain at the end of Route 7 is where I have to head next, and I have a rival battle with Charon before entering. After defeating him, I get Surf from Alder, who was observing our battle from afar. A few things to note about Twist Mountain are the items found here, and I want to point these out because you can pick up a rare candy if it's wintertime. And in this run, I didn't manipulate the seasons, although in future runs, this might be something I look into. Hey Scott, if you're watching this video, when you design your Gen 5 overlay, put something in there for season manips. Another useful item that can be picked up in winter only is the TM for Substitute. It wasn't needed for Samurott, but I can think of a few Pokemon that it might come in handy for. That's enough about Twist Mountain though. What do you say we pick this up in Nimbasa City, which I looked up the pronunciation straight from the anime, straight from the episode Caution, Icy Battle Conditions. The first thing I'm going to do in town is head to the Pokemon Center, and I can pick up the TM for Blizzard here, which is going to come in handy for our final gym battle. I can enter Bryson's gym right away, the plotline stuff is gonna come afterwards. And all the Pokemon in this gym can't do much damage to Samurott, so it has a pretty easy time going through all of the trainers and making its way to Bryson himself. I don't know if we're gonna have another one-shot sweep like we did with Skyla and Clay, but I don't expect Samurott to struggle at all here. Vanillish is the lead. It gets one shot by Razor Shell. Is this going to be another clean sweep? Well, it isn't, because Beartic survives a Razor Shell and hits me with Slash, doing pathetic damage as I knock it out on the next turn. I level up and he sends out his final Pokemon Cryogonal. This thing has trash physical defense, so Razor Shell one-shots it. Next I have to head to Dragon Spiral Tower, and here I'm going to catch my final HM user, a Golett, for strength. You can also catch a Druddigon here, which is useful for both Surf and Strength if needed. My Surf user in this particular playthrough though is an Audino. As I scale the tower, I have to battle my way through Team Plasma Grunts. They aren't a challenge, just annoying. And there is a part where you have to battle 4 of them back to back to back to back. And I am at under half health by the time I get through these battles, but these are the last ones here. At the top of the tower, there's a cutscene with N and Reshiram, and then I have to do some more backtracking, making my way to the Relic Castle in the Desert Resort. Just another one of those boring sections in the game where I have to fall through the sand, battle against Plasma Grunts, and eventually I run into Getsis and Alder at the end. There are some useful items you can get here, but a lot of them are post-game, and we'll touch on them in later videos. I then have to backtrack to Nakarine City, where the gym leader Lenora gives me a key item, the Darkstone. I can head back to Route 8 and head towards the 8th gym, but I'm stopped by my rival Bianca, who challenges me to a battle. Even though her party is fully evolved, she's not a challenge. I have finally arrived in Opelucid City, the home of the 8th and final gym badge, and there are some version differences of this city pending what you're playing, from music to the look of the city to the gym leader. Don't worry, I plan on playing both versions because I think there is one key difference that can help certain Pokemon, and it's actually going to be coming very soon. One of the key differences between each version though is the music that plays here. The track currently playing is what plays in Pokemon White. Now why don't we dim this some and play the track that plays in Pokemon Black? To be honest, I like both and really don't have a preference. Here are the side-by-side differences of each city in Pokemon White and Black. And really, when you look at their Black 2 and White 2 counterparts, there isn't too big of a difference. Aside from where Victory Road would be being blocked off, the last thing I'll point out is that if you're playing Pokemon White, the last gym leader you'll face is Iris, where if you're playing Pokemon Black, you'll face her father, Drayden. Since we're playing White, we're going to be facing Iris, and with Blizzard on our moveset, I don't see this one being a problem. Fracture, it's weak to Blizzard, it one-shots it. Druddigan is next, Blizzard one-shots it. Her final Pokemon is Haxorus, who we will be doing a playthrough with. Blizzard one-shots it. It's really weird to say that in Samurott's gym challenge, the hardest gym leader for it was Berg. Although I'm sure once I get somewhere between 5 and 10 playthroughs under my belt, I'll have a better idea as to who is the toughest gym leader. And I say that as toughest overall gym leader in these solo runs. I'm not gonna do 5 to 10 Samurott playthroughs. Before I head to Victory Road, there are some errands I want to run first. The first is visiting Professor Juniper and getting the TMs for False Swipe and Protect. Protect is the one I care about here. Additionally, she gives you the TM for Hidden Power once you've seen 100 Pokemon. But to me, that's quite a tall task just for a TM, so I'm just going to be running perfect DVs in this series. The next errand I'm going to run is right outside town on Route 1. Now that I have Surf, I can head to this area which will lead me to Route 17. There are some trainers here that I can battle as well, and I might as well because I could use the experience before the league and for the post-game. The main reason I ventured out this way though is because I can pick up the HM for Waterfall. I head back to Route 3 and pick up a rare candy that you can only access when you have Surf, and then to Route 2 to pick up another rare candy that you can only access with Strength. I'm showing you this footage of me depositing this egg. This is relevant. Keep it in your mind for later. One place I visit before heading to the league is the Mistralton Cave. This is home to the legendary Pokemon Cobalion. It's also the home of another rare candy we can pick up and the Rock Slide TM, which unfortunately Samurott can't learn, but there's another Pokemon that we're going to be running that can. I also battle against the legendary beast for some extra experience, and if I remember correctly, if you don't capture it, after you beat the Elite Four, it will respawn. Someone let me know in the comments if that's correct. Earlier I had mentioned about backtracking to Pinwheel Forest for a rare candy. When you originally come here after your second gym battle, there's a guy blocking the path to this. I'm not quite sure when it is he moves, so I've just made it in my routing to get this rare candy after I get all 8 gym badges. I can now head towards Victory Road, and I have one last rival battle with Charon. Once again, I'm not going to show this one because it's pretty irrelevant. Did anybody else get lost in Victory Road the first time you played Gen 5? Because I sure did. I kind of like the idea of scaling a mountain to get to the Pokemon League, but the dropping down walls and taking different paths, man, it just got frustrating. This is something that I'll mention more in Embor's playthrough, but that's the next video. Anyway, they don't make the rare candy hard to access, just surf across this lake. Victory Road is also the home to the legendary Pokemon Terrakion, who I do take on for some extra experience before the league. We one-shot it after setting up Swords Dance. Alright, I've gotten in all the training I can and picked up all of the rare candies I can. It's time to take on the league and get our round 1 time. You can battle the league in any order you like, and I decide to start with Marshall. I'm setting up Swords Dance and going for Aerial Ace, which barely misses the one-shot on Throw. After a full restore, I still can't get the one-shot range. Because Throw used Bulldoze on me, I'm not going to be able to outspeed any of his remaining Pokemon either, including his ace Conkeldurr. And I have to say, Sawk is one of his most annoying Pokemon because it has the ability Sturdy. It's able to get 2 Stone Edges on me, and Conkeldurr is able to finish me off with Hammer Arm. I decide to try my luck with Caitlyn next. I set up a Swords Dance as Ryu-Nicholas hits me with a massive Thunder, but after a single Swords Dance I'm able to sweep through her team with X-Scissor and Razor Shell. Grimsley's next, and Scrafty's Sand Attack is my undoing here. The single Sand Attack makes me miss so much. All I would have to do is hit a single X-Scissor, but Crocodile is able to finish me off with Earthquakes. I have a quick solution though, set up Swords Dance twice and teach Aerial Ace for this battle. Although it's not a foolproof solution, Bisharp takes more than 2 hits to knock out before a full restore, and his Liepard knows Attract, which it does use. Samurott scrapes by just barely. Alright, Ghost Trainer Chantal? I don't know how it's pronounced actually. I've met quite a bit of people in my life that spell it the same way but pronounce it differently. Anyway, Cofagrigus goes down to 2 Scalds and Jellicent is out next. Because I've set up a Swords Dance, I go for Aerial Ace, which doesn't get the one hit, and Energy Ball does a lot. She heals it with a full restore, and Cursed Body disables Aerial Ace. I have to go for Razor Shell, which does knock it out. I thought this thing had Water Absorb. Thank God it doesn't. Golurk is next, and it can go down to a Scald. Last is Chandelure, which I love this Pokemon. It goes down to a Swords Dance boosted Razor Shell. And it's time for the rematch against Marshall. Since I'm now 2 levels higher than when I first faced him, I can still outspeed Throw after a Bulldoze, although I won't outspeed Mienshao or Sawk. I'm just going for Scald in this battle because I'm hoping to get a Burn. Burn would knock out the Sawk even with its sturdy ability, and of course burning his Pokemon will cut their already high attack stat. Except burning Conkeldurr would be bad because of its ability Guts. But that doesn't happen here. We knock it out with Aerial Ace, make it to the Mienshao with green health, and a single Scald knocks it out. So normally this is the part where you would face the champion, but instead we get N and Alder here. N says that thanks to his friend Reshiram, Pokemon can be free from their trainers. We also get this cutscene of N's castle emerging from the ground. If it isn't obvious yet, of course we're going to have to face N at the top of his castle, but at least the game gives us an extra rare candy before then. We're going to need it. Before facing N though, you are required to catch Zekrom. I just throw my Master Ball at it. Well, we've skipped all of the N battles to this point, but now it's time for the final battle against him. Intro and all, let's see if we're ready. Remember back when I said depositing that egg would have relevancy? Well, it does here. Look who's in the front of my party. It's Zekrom. Just like the Lysander battle in X and Y, if you have a party space available, you're required to use the legendary that you catch. It's a good thing that you can backtrack and use the PC to withdraw the egg, otherwise I might have softlocked myself in this battle. And I use the term softlock very loosely. I'm sure I could have gotten through this battle eventually with Zekrom in the lead, but it's not something I want to try. Anyway, let's just go ahead and speed up this fight to the end. I lose this attempt anyway. I've gone ahead and used all my rare candies to bring myself to level 70 and modified my moveset. I also have to keep in mind with my moveset that I have a battle with Getsis immediately after N. Dig does give me super effective damage on 3 out of N's 6 Pokemon, although his Caracosta does have the ability Sturdy. I did set up a Swords Dance on Reshiram because I want to take no chances, and Dig is able to one-shot it and Kling Klang. Zoroark comes out next and X-Scissor is able to one-shot it. And now the annoying Caracosta. Waterfall would one-shot it if it weren't for Sturdy, and it misses Stone Edge. While N does use a full restore, that's the only one he has, and we're able to knock it out on the next turn. From here, both Archeops and Vanillux fall to a single waterfall. One thing that I failed to mention before is that this was the 6th time that I've battled N. The fact that him and Getsis are back-to-back battles, and that my rule set prevents me from using items in battle, makes this pretty tough. Also, I wasn't going to show you just a bunch of failed Getsis and N attempts, because who the hell wants to watch that? Anyway, it's time for the final battle of the main game before Samurott tries its hand at the post-game. Cofagrigus has to be one of the most annoying Pokemon, only because of its ability, Mummy. If you don't know what this ability does, if you make a contact move with it, it will change your ability to Mummy, and any Pokemon that makes a contact move with you will have its ability changed to Mummy. It's really unfortunate that it happens in this battle because I'd rather have Torrent, but thanks to setting up Swords Dance, I'm able to one-shot it, Bouffalant, and the Electros. He sends out his ace, the pseudo-legendary Hydreigon next. It outspeeds, and Dragon Pulse does massive damage thanks to a crit. X-Scissor, however, is able to get the one-shot. His remaining 2 Pokemon are Seismitoad and Bisharp, which Samurott outspeeds both, and Waterfall is able to one-shot each. Although I don't have a timer displayed, Samurott clears the main game of Pokemon White with a real time of 3 hours, 32 minutes, and 34 seconds, and an in-game time of 7 hours and 3 minutes, which as you know is the metric I use for my runs. As previously mentioned in the video, there is a post-game to these games, and this video is already pretty long, so I'm going to try to go through it as quickly as possible, especially with the errands I take care of. Of course, with this being the first Gen 5 run on the channel, I do want to show some of the details behind it. The first thing I want to say is that you don't get the Super Rod until the post-game, and it's the only rod available in these games. Personally, I'm not a fan of that, but let's move on. Let's talk about these Elite Four rematches. Their Pokemon go from being level 48 and 50 to level 71 and 73. Although my Samurott right now is level 71, I'm going to need a lot more levels. Thankfully, routes 12, 13, 14, and 15 now open up, so there are some trainers we can battle. One of them includes the Sinnoh champion Cynthia. Look at her team. Her Roserade and Togekiss are replaced with Braviary and Electros. Personally, I think they should have just left it the same as it was in Pokemon Platinum, but let me know in the comments what you think on that. Alright, let's see how fast I can cover all of these errands. Part of the postgame is hunting down the 7 sages that worked with Getsus. Each one you find will give you a different TM, and the one here at the Dream Yard gives you the TM for Swords Dance. I make my way to Route 16 next, which is east of Nimbasa City. There's a rare candy here that I skipped previously for good reason. That's because also on Route 16 is Lost Lorn Forest, and there's another rare candy you can get here, but you need the HM for Waterfall in order to access it. I'm going to be battling any trainer I come across along the way because they all usually have Pokemon in the 60s. Unfortunately, sometimes you get a guy like this who only has first stage Pokemon, and then you might get a trainer like this who has a fully evolved Hitmontop and Medicham. When I sat down to do the postgame, I predicted that I would probably need somewhere in the upper 80s in order to beat the Elite Four and Champion. So I'll take any and all experience I can get. I eventually make my way to the Abundant Shrine, which is the home of the legendary Pokemon Landorus. Unfortunately, it doesn't spawn unless I have Tornadus and Thundurus in my party. There's also the TM for Flamethrower here, which Samurott can't learn, but will come in handy for Emboar. While it would have been nice to knock out a level 70 legendary for the experience yield, there are some trainers here I can battle. But the main reason I came here is for another rare candy. Okay, I'm sure someone was thinking to themselves that we can still knock out a level 70 legendary with Landorus not there. And you're correct. Welcome to the Giant Chasm, home of the legendary dragon Kyurem. Originally, I came here for the TM Ice Beam, in case I want something that's a bit more accurate than Blizzard. But if you make your way to the lake in the middle of the Giant Chasm, the whole place gets snowed over and you can enter the cave to the north and fight the legendary beast. I do take on the dragon, and had it gone for Dragon Pulse 2 times in a row, I probably would have lost. But I'm able to knock it out, and it provides over 4,000 experience points. Since I've cleared out every trainer from routes 12, 13, 14, and 15, the only one left to face is Cynthia. Let's see how I do against the Sinnoh champion. I'll admit from the previous footage that I was just mashing A and I didn't know you had the choice to decline her battle at first. It probably would have been a good idea too, because my moveset really isn't equipped to deal with her, especially her Garchomp. I am able to one-shot her first 2 Pokemon with Waterfall thanks to setting up a Swords Dance. She sends out her Braviary next, as Waterfall barely misses the one-shot and Shadow Claw does pathetic damage. I set up another Swords Dance as she uses a full restore, and then misclick return, but it's able to get the one hit. Next, she sends out Lucario. This thing is faster than Samurott, and its Aura Sphere does over half of my remaining HP. Although Waterfall knocks it out, I don't think I'm going to make it past Garchomp. It outspeeds, and Earthquake brings me to 10 HP. I should have used Waterfall, but used Return. It fails to get the one-shot, and it knocks me out. I took the Blackout just so I could keep the experience, but things fall apart on the Braviary in the next battle. Ice Beam fails to get the one-shot, and Cynthia heals it with a full restore. I get in a Swords Dance, but I get greedy for a second, and Braviary hits me with a massive Brave Bird. While I am able to take it out on the next turn, I don't have enough HP to deal with Lucario, who follows, and its close combat knocks me out. 0 for 2 against Cynthia. In the next battle, Double Team be damned, I set up 2 Swords Dance on Spirit Tomb as it just sets up Double Team. I'm able to one-hit it with Waterfall, not missing, and I'm able to one-shot the following Electros and Braviary, making it back to the Lucario on full health. Its Aura Sphere does a little less than half, as Waterfall is able to one-shot it. Now out comes her ace, Garchomp. I debated between Waterfall and Ice Beam. I select the second. Earthquake brings me to 57 HP as Ice Beam one-shots it. We've made it to her final Pokemon, the Milotic. I go for return, hoping that I get the one-shot, and I do. Cynthia is finally defeated. The only thing left is the Round 2 League and the Champion Alder. Are you ready for a montage of losses? Well, that's what I would normally say if I didn't edit them all out. I'm sure you're watching this video because you want to see the many losses I took to Caitlyn and Chantel before battling Marshall. I bet you're wondering why Breloom missed a Spore as well. Well, it's because I have the Bright Powder equipped. Alright, I've got 2 Swords Dance set up, so I'm just gonna fast forward through this one. We're able to get by this one, be it on 18 HP left over. I take on Caitlyn next after a loss to Grimsley. X-Scissor does over half to Musharna, but it puts me to sleep with Hypnosis. It then hits me with Dream Eater, healing back some lost HP, but I wake up and set up a Swords Dance. From here, X-Scissor can finish off Musharna, get the one-shot on Reuniqueless and Gothitelle before Metagross comes out. I was hoping with 2 Swords Dance, Waterfall would knock it out, but it barely misses the range. It hits me with Zen Headbutt and gets healed up with the full restore. I just go for X-Scissor and Waterfall to take it out. She sends in her Bronzong next. Like Metagross, it's also bulky defensively, but Waterfall takes it out in one hit. Her final Pokemon is Sigilif. Its Psychic brings me to 2 HP, but Waterfall one-shots it. I decide to take on Grimsley next, and his opening Sharpedo is able to chip me down quite a bit with Night Slash, and the fact that it has rough skin. After I set up a Swords Dance and take it out with X-Scissor, I'm down to half HP. I can take out the following Scrafty with Waterfall, but then out comes Drapion. Its first Thunderfang flinches me, and its second brings me to red health, but this also puts me in Torrent range, boosting the power of Waterfall. And my Swords Dance Torrent boosted Waterfall is able to take out his remaining Crocodile, Liepard, and Bisharp. This might be a bit premature to say, but I think Chantal is probably the toughest of the Elite Four members. Her Cofagrigus is definitely the most trolly Pokemon of any member's team, with its ability Mummy, the ability to burn you with Will-O-Wisp. I just hate this thing, and I'm not looking forward to running it later on. Look up its moveset, it's terrible to start the game. I did put on a Rostberry before this battle, so I was able to counteract the burn, and Waterfall one-shots Cofagrigus, Drifblim, and Golurk, and now I have to deal with Jellicent. Aerial Ace doesn't get the one-shot, and Cursed Body activates, disabling it. Now all I have are X-Scissor and Waterfall. Since she uses a full restore, I squeeze in one more Swords Dance, and between Waterfall and X-Scissor, I go for X-Scissor, it doesn't one-shot, and it finishes me with Shadow Ball. In the next battle, I make it back to Jellicent with 2 Swords Dance set up again. This time I go for X-Scissor, hoping Curse Body activates on it, which it does. It hits me with Shadow Ball, which I tank, and I can freely knock it out with Aerial Ace. She sends out Frostlass next, it does outspeed and Shadow Ball brings me to 13 HP, but Waterfall one-shots it. Last is Chandelure. I'm just hoping Samurott outspeeds, which it does, and Waterfall one-shots it. 47.5 minutes into a video and we're finally moving on to the champion, which speaking of the champion, check out his team. His ace is Volcarona, and he leads with the special attacking bug, Excelgor. Excelgor is also very fast, and I don't think Samurott is going to be moving first against it. Of course, his ace is Volcarona, which I thought was a legendary when I first played these games, because it's an overworld encounter at level 70. If you're wondering where exactly you find it, you go to Relic Castle in the post-game, and I believe you can catch it in Black 2 and White 2 at level 35. Alright, I've rambled enough about Alder's team, and this video is already pretty long. At least for me. It's time for Samurott to finish this. Excelgor is the lead. Its Energy Ball does just under half. Aerial Ace does one-shot it. He sends out Escavalier next. Great Pokemon, by the way. I set up some Swords Dance, but it crits with Iron Head. I only have 39 HP remaining for his final 4 Pokemon, but he sends out his ace Volcarona next, and its Bug Buzz finishes me. I get lucky in the next battle, with Excelgor not going for Energy Ball. Unfortunately, Escavalier hits me with X-Scissor and Giga Impact, which means Volcarona will easily knock me out with Bug Buzz once again. I switch out the Bright Powder for the Mystic Water in the next battle, and instead of trying to set up Swords Dance, I'm going to go straight offense. Waterfall is able to one-shot Excelgor with no setup. It does over half to Escavalier, who just hits me with a weak Aerial Ace. My second can take it out, and once again he sends in his ace Volcarona. I think it sets up Quiver Dance because it sees it doesn't have the knockout range on me, and Waterfall one-shots it. Thank God. He sends out Bouffalant next. I set up a Swords Dance because I don't think I can one-shot it, and Head Charge brings me into Torrent range. This is perfect. I'm going to have the one-shot range on his remaining Pokemon, but he sends out Druddigon next, and I'm hoping that Rough Skin doesn't KO me. I go for Waterfall, thinking it's the best bet, and Rough Skin brings me to 7 HP. His final Pokemon is Vanillux, and I can easily one-shot it with Waterfall. Samurott finishes the post-game at level 88 with a final in-game time of 9 hours and 9 minutes. Even though I've done 11 runs in Gen 6 to this point, I have to say, this one run in Gen 5 seemed a lot more difficult than all of them. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this run and continue to enjoy the Gen 5 content that comes to the channel. A huge shout out to the channel members and those that regularly comment on the videos. The support means a lot. In the next Gen 5 run, we're going to see how fast Emboar can beat the game. By the way, I said at the beginning of the video that I was going to be running Pokemon that I used on my original team. Well, between the Elite Four and Gym Leaders, 4 out of 6 of them appeared on my team. Let's see if you can guess in the comments which appeared on my team. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, everybody.